Raphael felt a bit left behind, but he understood that love could change the dynamics between people. Instead of dwelling on it, he threw himself into his work, using the opportunity to innovate and grow his ideas. One day, while reviewing plans for a new hotel concept, he received a message from Victor, inviting him to a gala event. Although he was initially unsure about attending, Raphael decided to go, thinking it could be a good chance to network and showcase his success. The event was glamorous, filled with laughter, luxury, and the kind of crowd he had once dreamed of being part of. As he entered the grand ballroom, his eyes scanned the room and stopped on a beautiful woman in a sparkling gown. Her name was Elena, and she immediately captivated him. She was intelligent, witty, and shared a passion for architecture, making her stand out from anyone he had ever met. They talked for hours, exchanging ideas and dreams, and Raphael felt a spark he hadn't felt in a long time. After the gala, Raphael discussed the evening with Victor, who encouraged him to pursue a relationship with Elena. "I think she's perfect for you," Victor said, giving Raphael a supportive pat on the back. With this motivation, Raphael started asking Elena out, and their relationship blossomed. Unlike Asmara, Elena appreciated his passion for architecture and supported his ambitions, which reignited Raphael's excitement for his dreams. As their relationship deepened, Raphael realized that love could be a powerful catalyst for personal growth. With Elena by his side, he launched even more innovative projects. Together, they began envisioning not just hotels but entire communities built around sustainability and fostering connections. Over time, Raphael became not just a successful businessman but also a beloved figure in the city, known for his generous philanthropy. He opened doors for young architects and entrepreneurs, helping them chase their dreams, just as he had done. In the end, Raphael learned that while ambition and success were important, the love and connections he found along the way truly enriched his life. He finally achieved not only the wealth and recognition he had always sought, but also the joy of having someone to share it with, a future filled with love and adventure. Victor, as usual, wasted no time on pleasantries. "Listen, brother, we have an opportunity to take things to the next level and make some serious money," he said, diving straight into the point. Raphael was immediately interested. For him, business had become an exciting game, and he never missed a chance to level up. One of the big international businessmen, Alessandro Rosso, is interested in our hotels. He wants to create something similar in his own country, and he's particularly intrigued by your creative ideas. He's interested in collaborating on more unique projects with us. From what I've learned about him, if he's happy with the partnership, he won't stop at just a couple of projects. "This is huge," Raphael replied. "Did you tell him we're in?" Victor hesitated slightly. "That's the thing, brother. There's a bit of a catch here." "What kind of catch?" "I'm sure we can figure it out," Raphael said confidently. Victor cleared his throat. "It's a bit delicate. Alessandro Rosso has a fiancée." "Well, I'm happy for him," Raphael said with a smile. "And he's very, very jealous," Victor added. Raphael paused, not expecting that twist. "What do you mean?" he asked. Victor explained. "Rosso has a tradition. To ensure business success, he regularly meets with his business partners. From what I understand, these gatherings happen almost every week." "Oh no, where will I find the time for this?" Raphael groaned. "Exactly," Victor said, nodding. "And here's the kicker. Rosso is very keen that all business partners attend these dinners with a partner, preferably a fiancée, or better yet, a wife." Raphael couldn't help but laugh at the strange requirement. "As for me, I've got it all figured out. Next week, I'm going to propose to Isabella," Victor admitted sincerely. "But what about you, the eternal bachelor?" Raphael thought for a moment. "Do you have someone in mind?" Victor asked cautiously. "Not yet, but I will," Raphael replied quickly. For him, business always came first, and if he needed a fiancée, he would find one soon enough. "Great, then I'll let Alessandro know you'll be bringing your beautiful, dark-haired, blue-eyed friend," Victor teased. Raphael was caught off guard. "Why that description specifically?" "I think girls like that suit you," Victor said with a laugh. Maybe he's right, Raphael thought, recalling Myra with a sigh. Anyway, Arrogant blondes certainly don't. The next morning, the first thing Raphael did was call his assistant. I need you to find me a fiancée, he said bluntly. There was silence on the other end of the line. Excuse me, Senor Alvarado? The assistant asked, surprised. Find me a fiancée, Raphael repeated. It has to be done by the weekend. After a brief pause, he added, she should be beautiful, with long dark hair and blue eyes, preferably someone in need of a job who isn't interested in dating a wealthy businessman. She must be well-mannered, educated, and articulate. That's all. Another silence followed. But where will I find such a girl? She asked hesitantly. Use all your resources and creativity, Raphael replied before hanging up. Soon, Raphael received a message from Victor. Alessandro Rosso is expecting us for dinner at 7 o'clock on Saturday at Magnolia Restaurant. How's it going with the fiancé? Raphael quickly responded, in progress. On Friday morning, the assistant called to say she had found several potential candidates. Would you like to meet them personally to see who you're dealing with, Senor Alvarado? Raphael agreed. He needed to make a decision and brief the selected girl. He told the assistant he would be at the office in an hour. Invite the candidates by then, he said. An hour later, Raphael was riding the elevator up to his office. His heart was unexpectedly racing, but he reminded himself that these were business interviews, not dates, even if they involved potential fiancés. When he arrived on the 12th floor, his assistant informed him that Señorita Torres, the first candidate, was already waiting. Nodding, Raphael walked into his office to find a young woman with long dark hair, neatly braided. She wore a gray suit with a white blouse underneath and a long skirt, paired with sensible black shoes. She looked at him, and Raphael noted that his assistant had done well in finding someone who fit his requirements. Señorita Torres had striking blue eyes. He decided to test whether she could hold a conversation and introduced himself. Señorita Torres, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Raphael Alvarado. She stood up and shook his hand in a professional manner, though she blushed deeply, which made Raphael a bit uncomfortable too. I'll briefly explain the situation and then ask you a few questions, if that's all right, he said, trying to mask his awkwardness. The girl nodded, and they sat down. Raphael explained the nature of the job she would be doing. As he spoke, she raised an eyebrow briefly but kept her expression calm. Now, if you're willing to help for a reasonable fee, we'll proceed with a quick interview, he added. The girl nodded again. It feels like she's mute, Raphael thought, but he continued, asking her about her occupation, education, and interests. To his surprise, after hesitating at first, Señorita Torres began speaking rapidly. However, Raphael quickly realized why she had been so quiet at the start. She stuttered, which made her reluctant to speak. When she finished, Raphael politely thanked her and said he would get in touch if she was selected. She left the office, and Raphael invited the next candidate. The second candidate was very attractive, but too cold in her manner. The third was beautiful but too tall for his liking. He didn't want to look awkward standing next to her. The fourth seemed too plain, and the fifth was too naive and silly. By the end of the interviews, Raphael was frustrated. He hadn't found anyone suitable and felt like he had wasted his time. He went to dinner at a restaurant, where he found himself scanning the room for potential fiancés. There were many attractive women, but Raphael couldn't bring himself to approach any of them. If the press finds out, they'll mock me, he thought. Worse, if Alessandro Rosso heard about it, the deal could fall through. With these discouraging thoughts, Raphael finished his cold dinner and went home. The next morning, he woke up feeling restless. He paced around, worrying about where to find a suitable fiancée. A message notification pinged on his phone. I hope you've settled the issue with the girl. Rosso is counting on us, Victor had written. Raphael didn't reply. He decided that if worst came to worst, he would claim he was sick and skip the dinner. After showering and getting dressed, he headed into the city for breakfast, leaving his car in the parking lot. On his way to his favorite cafe, where they served delicious French toast and croissants, Raphael passed a public library. Realizing he had run out of new books, he decided to stop inside. Though it had been years since he last used a library, his assistant usually handled ordering books for him. He'd been so caught up in the fiancée search that he had forgotten to send her a new list. This left Raphael without any books for the weekend, which felt unbearable. He was a true book lover. On top of that, without a fiancée, it seemed he'd be spending the evening at home. Of course, he could have gone to a bookstore to pick up a few titles, but seeing the library had sparked a wave of nostalgia from his childhood. The memories drew him toward the heavy doors, behind which lay thousands of stories. He opened the door and took in the familiar scent of books, feeling a rush of excitement like a child about to embark on a new adventure. Raphael climbed the wide staircase and entered a room filled with bookshelves. He walked slowly among them, browsing the spines, forgetting all about breakfast and his other concerns. He was so absorbed that he didn't hear a young woman with round glasses calling out to him. When he didn't respond, she came closer and repeated her question. "Are you looking for something in particular?" the girl asked. Startled, Raphael looked at her. She had long dark hair, blue eyes, and a sweet smile. Her name tag read, Na Martinez. Raphael couldn't help but look her over. She was slim and elegant, dressed in a short pleated skirt, funny white knee socks, and heavy boots. He stammered, suddenly forgetting why he had entered the library. "You?" she asked patiently, waiting for him to finish. "I was looking for books," Raphael finally said. "Oh, perfect. You've come to the right place," Na joked with a grin. "Do you have any specific preferences?" Raphael struggled to focus on the conversation, his mind racing with thoughts of the upcoming dinner. What if I asked this charming librarian to be my date? How would she react? He wondered nervously, feeling sweat form on his brow. Why isn't Victor here? Raphael thought. He'd know exactly how to charm her and take control of the situation. But Raphael was different. Meeting new people had always been hard for him, and it was no easier now, even as a successful businessman. "I like reading philosophy," Raphael finally managed to say. "Wonderful." Na smiled. "Let me show you the section where Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato are waiting for you." She walked briskly toward the shelves, and Raphael had to hurry to keep up with her. How does she walk so fast in those heavy boots? He wondered. Na led him to the philosophy section. "Here you go, take your pick." "I won't disturb you," she said, before returning to her desk. Raphael pretended to browse the books, all the while thinking about how to ask her the unusual favor on his mind. Finally, he grabbed the first book he saw and approached her. "Ah, a great choice," Na said with a bright smile. "Are you already registered with the library?" Raphael shook his head. "Okay, I'll need to get a form and your ID," she said. Raphael handed over his driver's license, but hesitated before giving it to her, his eyes fixed on her. Noticing his gaze, Na looked up, puzzled. "Do you need something else?" she asked. "A book that's not on the shelves?" "No, it's not that," Raphael admitted. "Actually, I need your help, but in a different way." Her brow furrowed slightly, but she listened attentively. Raphael took a deep breath. "I'd like to invite you to dinner," he said. Her eyebrows shot up. "But it's not a date," she asked, amused. "No," Raphael quickly clarified. Na laughed. "Then what is it? Do you want me to read you poetry over dinner?" "No, it's a business dinner," Raphael explained. "Everyone's attending with their girlfriends or fiancés, and I don't have one." "Oh, I see," Na said, quickly piecing it together. "And you don't have anyone to go with?" "Exactly," Raphael nodded, relieved that she understood. Na thought for a moment. "When is this dinner?" she asked. "Tonight," Raphael replied, his heart skipping a beat, worried she might be unavailable. But Na smiled again. "Oddly enough, I'm free this evening." Raphael was overjoyed. "Fantastic," he said, smiling back. Then, after a pause, he awkwardly added, Do you have an evening dress?" Na guessed, saving him from his awkwardness. Raphael exhaled with relief and nodded. "I think I can manage that," she said. "If you need to buy something, I'll cover it," Raphael quickly offered, handing her his business card. "Just send me the amount, and I'll transfer the money." Na took the card and glanced at it. Just then, Raphael's phone rang. It was Victor. "Hey, brother, you didn't reply to my message. Did you find a fiancé or not?" Victor asked. "Everything's sorted," Raphael whispered, trying not to disturb the library. "I'll be there tonight." "Why are you whispering?" Victor asked, confused. "I'm in the library," Raphael said, hanging up before Victor could respond. When Raphael returned to Na, she had already filled out the form and handed it to him for his signature. Her demeanor had changed. Her smile was gone, replaced with a more serious expression, as if something was weighing on her mind. "Should I meet you at the restaurant, or would you prefer to pick me up?" Raphael asked. "No need to pick me up," Na said. "I'll take a taxi. Let me give you my number." Raphael entered her number into his phone. "I'll send you the address and dinner time," he said. Na nodded, but something felt off. As Raphael left the library, he sensed that her warmth had been replaced by a sudden coldness, her friendly smile gone. What could have changed? He wondered. Maybe she just needed to get back to work. Shrugging it off, Raphael reassured himself that the important part was done. He had found a suitable date for the evening. There was no need to overthink the rest. With that thought, he focused on preparing for the dinner, calling his personal stylist to schedule an appointment. Raphael knew he had to look his best for the dinner that evening. Around noon, he received a message from Na, sending him a picture of a stunning evening dress. It was bright red, and Raphael couldn't help but imagine how amazing she would look in it. However, when he saw the price tag, he cursed under his breath. It was extremely expensive. Even though Raphael was more than wealthy, he had always been careful with his money, avoiding unnecessary extravagance. He typically bought simple things, ate at modest cafes, and felt perfectly content doing so. Growing up poor had taught him the value of money. Of course, there were times when he had to spend more to maintain his image in front of business partners, and today was one of those times. So, reluctantly, he transferred the funds for the dress and later for expensive shoes and a handbag as well. This girl is really preparing thoroughly, he thought. By 7 p.m., Raphael arrived at the Magnolia restaurant, parking his car outside. He glanced at his reflection in a nearby store window. His light suit, white shirt with a bow tie, and polished leather shoes all fit him perfectly. Adjusting his expensive watch, he headed inside. Victor and his girlfriend, Isabella, were already at the table. They both looked stunning. Isabella was in a green velvet dress with a pearl necklace and had styled her reddish-brown hair elegantly, with soft curls framing her face. "Hello, friends." Raphael greeted them warmly. "Hey, brother," Victor replied. "You look great, but where's your fiancée?" "She'll be here in a taxi any minute," Raphael replied. "And where are Alessandro and his lady?" "They're running a bit late," Victor explained. "There's some traffic at the entrance to the city. Rosso said they'd be here in about 3 minutes." Raphael sat down beside Victor and quickly texted Na. "Are you on your way?" "Yes, I'll be there in 5 minutes," she responded. "Great, I'll be waiting," Raphael replied and put his phone away. Just then, Victor leaned over and spoke in a more serious tone. "Hey, brother, we've always done business on the level, right? No shady dealings." "As far as I know, yes," Raphael replied, surprised by the question. "Why are you asking this now?" Victor tapped his fingers nervously on the table. "I heard that Rosso is very particular about things like that. He's extremely honest and expects the same from his business partners. If there's anything questionable in our past dealings, he'll refuse to work with us." Raphael thought for a moment, going over everything in his head. "No, I've always made sure we conducted business above board. Unless there's something I don't know about?" Victor nodded, looking slightly relieved. "Then I think we're good. Unless your fiancée stands you up?" He laughed, but Raphael wasn't in the mood for jokes. Just then, Raphael noticed a couple approaching the table. He had only seen the man in photos before, but there was no doubt. It was Alessandro Rosso, their potential business partner. Rosso was tall and in his 50s, with a smooth bald head and a perfectly tailored checkered suit. He exuded confidence as he walked, and beside him was a strikingly beautiful young woman with blonde hair and large, expressive eyes. She wore a blue silk dress that highlighted her slim figure with silver jewelry that matched her light gray eyes. Raphael's heart skipped a beat. He recognized the woman immediately. It was Asira, the same woman who had broken his heart in university. Now, Raphael understood why Rosso was known for being jealous. Asira had always been unpredictable and flirtatious. As the couple approached, the men stood to greet Alessandro. Asira gave Raphael a slow, deliberate look and extended her hand for a kiss. He shook her hand with a hint of sarcasm, unsure if she recognized him as she kept an indifferent expression. "Whatever happened between us is long over," Raphael reminded himself. "Wonderful to see you all in this lovely place," Alessandro said cheerfully. "Greetings, Victor, Isabella, Raphael. But Raphael, why are you alone? Victor mentioned you'd be arriving with a beautiful, blue-eyed fiancée." Raphael felt his face flush with embarrassment. Seeing Asira had rattled him so much that he had almost forgotten about Na. He was about to explain when a soft voice interrupted him. "The blue-eyed fiancée has arrived." Everyone looked up to see Na standing beside the table. She wore a modest dark blue dress with simple black shoes, her hair neatly tied back in a bun, and long, elegant earrings. Despite her understated look, she appeared graceful. Still, Raphael couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. Why didn't she wear the red dress I bought for her? He wondered. But there was no time to dwell on it. He stood up and gently placed his arm around Na. She seemed distant, but Raphael pushed aside the feeling. He guided her to a seat beside him and introduced her to everyone. "This is Na, my fiancée," he said, smiling at the group. The girls smiled with grace. "Indeed, she is lovely," Alessandro commented. "I'm not used to luxury," Na responded modestly. "Admirable, admirable," Rosso replied. Raphael smiled awkwardly, puzzled by Na's behavior. He felt as though he had been drawn into a game without knowing the rules. Victor watched Raphael closely, equally confused, his concern evident. Raphael tried to calm him with a reassuring glance, though he wasn't sure it worked. The waiter arrived, and everyone began to order. Asira chose shrimp and champagne, with Rosso following her lead. Victor and Isabella placed their orders as well. "What will you have?" Na asked Raphael. "I think I'll just have plain rice," Na said seriously. "Plain rice?" Alessandro laughed. "Raphael, are you not letting your friend eat properly?" Raphael blushed, feeling embarrassed. "No, I would never." He caught Asira's mocking look, which made him even more flustered. "Oh, it has nothing to do with him," Na said calmly, almost regally. "I just watch my figure and try not to eat much after 6 p.m. Alessandro chuckled, finding it amusing. "I like this girl," he said warmly. Victor joined in the laughter, and the others smiled. "She's still so young," Asira commented condescendingly, which irritated Raphael. Na remained silent. The waiter brought hors d'oeuvres and light snacks, and the conversation shifted to business. The women listened but didn't participate. After the men had discussed work, Asira turned her attention to Na. "So, when are you and Raphael planning to get married?" she asked. Na shook her head. "We haven't set a date yet," she said. "Oh, and why not?" Asira pressed. "We're not in a hurry," Raphael quickly responded, covering for Na. "Yes, you've always been quite slow," Asira said, suddenly winking at Raphael. Alessandro looked at her curiously. "How do you know that?" he asked, his tone suspicious. "My sister went to university with him," Asira lied smoothly. Raphael was unsettled by this. Asira hadn't changed at all, he thought, but he kept quiet. The conversation soon moved on, with Victor and Isabella taking the spotlight. After a while, the waiter brought out the dishes. The food looked and smelled amazing. A modest plate of plain rice was placed in front of Na, and she began to eat slowly. Raphael couldn't help but watch her, feeling both pride and uncertainty. Na had won over their potential business partner, but had Raphael managed to do the same? He wasn't sure. It seemed to him that Rosso sometimes looked at him with suspicion, likely due to Asira, who kept giving Raphael sly, ambiguous glances. Na noticed this too, but chose not to say anything. Finally, the conversation turned to the future of their joint project. Victor and Raphael took turns explaining their working methods, sharing their ideas, and discussing the innovations they planned to implement. "This all sounds promising," Alessandro remarked. "I like both of you, and I'm almost ready to sign a contract with you." Raphael and Victor exchanged triumphant glances. However, Alessandro continued, "My reputation is extremely important to me. I refuse to associate with a company if I discover it has been involved in any unethical dealings. Can you assure me that my integrity and dignity will remain intact if we work together?" Victor, swallowing his food hastily, nodded. "Of course, we guarantee it." Alessandro then turned his gaze to Raphael, awaiting his response. "Yes," Raphael confirmed, echoing Victor. "We have always conducted ourselves with honesty and integrity." At that moment, Na suddenly stood up from the table. "What's wrong, dear?" Raphael asked, concerned. Na looked at him coldly, her expression suddenly hostile. "Are you sure you've told Mr. Rosso the whole truth?" she asked sharply. Raphael was taken aback. "What are you talking about?" he asked, confused. The table fell silent. "I'm talking about the fact that you haven't always been truthful with everyone you've done business with," Na said, her voice clear and firm. Raphael stared at her in disbelief, unsure of what was happening. "Who did I deceive?" Raphael barely managed to ask. "My father," Na replied calmly. "A few years ago, your company started a new project and found the perfect location in the city center. But there was one small problem. A house, where my family lived, stood in the way, and you decided to demolish it." A tense silence fell over the table. Alessandro Rosso fixed his stern gaze on Raphael. "Is this true, Mr. Alvarado?" he asked, his voice heavy with authority. Raphael turned pale, sweat forming on his forehead. "I don't know anything about this," he stammered. "That's a lie," Na exclaimed, her eyes brimming with tears. "You're the head of the company. You should know everything that happens." "But I truly don't know anything. I always personally checked every location where construction was planned," Raphael insisted. "You're lying," Na shouted, and with tears spilling over, she grabbed her purse and ran away from the table. Raphael instinctively wanted to chase after her, but Victor caught his sleeve. "Wait, brother," he said quietly. Raphael stopped and turned to Victor, his face pale and confused. "I don't know anything about a demolished house," he repeated, locking eyes with his friend. Victor lowered his gaze, guilt spreading across his face. "But I do," he admitted. Raphael couldn't believe his ears. "What? What are you talking about?" "It happened 4 years ago," Victor began, speaking softly. "We were planning to build a hotel in the center. You had taken some time off because your mother was ill, so I handled everything. Yes, there was a small house there. I offered to buy it, but the owner refused. So, I bribed the police to force the family to leave. They were given 3 days to pack up. The owner wanted to fight it in court, but our lawyers convinced him that it was a lost cause. We transferred a large sum of money to the family's account to help them buy a new home. After that, I forgot about the whole incident." Raphael stared at Victor, horrified. "You did this behind my back? How could you, Victor? I trusted you completely." Victor hung his head in shame. "I didn't think it was that serious." "I'm sorry, Raphael." Alessandro Rosso began clapping slowly, sarcastically. "What a show. A dramatic revelation between business partners." He stood up and helped Asira to her feet. "Gentlemen, thank you for the dinner, but we must take our leave now." Without a word, Alessandro and Asira exited the restaurant. No one tried to stop them. There was nothing left to say. "Well, I'll be damned," Victor muttered, as Isabella patted his hand sympathetically. "This isn't funny, Victor," Raphael said sternly. "I'm not sure I can continue working with you." With that, Raphael got up and left the restaurant. As he reached his car, Raphael felt someone watching him. He looked up to see Asira, smiling smugly from the back seat of a car as it pulled away. Raphael shook his head in frustration and pulled out his phone, sending a message to Na. "I'm truly sorry. I had no idea about your house. Victor just confessed to me about what he did." The reply came almost instantly. "I don't believe you." Feeling defeated, Raphael drove home. He couldn't sleep that night, tossing and turning with the weight of everything that had happened. He decided that he needed to see Na in person to explain everything. The next morning, he woke up early, got dressed, and walked around town, trying to clear his mind. Half an hour before the library opened, he was already standing by the entrance. Soon, he saw Na walking down the street, lost in thought. She wore a short green skirt, a white polo shirt, and her signature army boots, with her hair tied back in a green bow. She didn't notice Raphael at first, so he stepped in front of her path. "Na," he called softly. She was startled and looked at him with surprise. "What do you want?" "I thought we said everything yesterday." Raphael tried to take her hand, but she pulled away. "I just want to apologize again. I swear, I knew nothing about your house." Na looked at him, her expression unreadable. "It doesn't matter anymore," she said coldly, trying to walk past him, but Raphael blocked her way. "Please, let me make it up to you," he pleaded. "You already have," she said. "I gave the money you sent for the dress and shoes to my parents." Raphael nodded, finally understanding why she had worn simple clothes to dinner the previous night. "But I don't want you to hold this against me." "I'm not holding a grudge," Na replied tersely. "Then prove it," Raphael said with a smile. "Let me take you to dinner." "Another dinner?" Na asked skeptically. "Yes," Raphael said, managing to take her hand. "But this time, it'll be just the two of us, and it'll be a real date." Na's eyebrows shot up in surprise. She hadn't expected that. Why would a wealthy businessman want to take an ordinary girl on a date? Raphael leaned in close to her ear. "Maybe because he likes her," he whispered. Na smiled. "All right, I'll give you another chance," she said, before slipping past him and disappearing into the library. Feeling relieved, Raphael returned to his office, where he booked a table at a nice restaurant and arranged for roses to be delivered to the library. A few moments later, there was a knock on his door. "Come in," Raphael called. Victor entered, still looking embarrassed. "Raphael, I'm sorry for what I did. I realize now how much I've jeopardized everything." "It's good you understand that," Raphael said coldly. "I'll think about whether I can forgive you." Victor nodded and left, while Raphael received a text message from an unknown number. It read, "You've certainly become someone. I'd love to see you." The message was signed, Asira. At any other time, Raphael might have been flattered, but thinking of Na's gentle blue eyes, he replied, "I don't think Alessandro would be pleased." He blocked Asira's number and focused on the upcoming dinner. By 7 p.m., Raphael was waiting at the library when Na appeared, looking radiant in a long golden dress and high heels. Her hair was curled and styled elegantly. "You look stunning," Raphael said. "Thanks for the roses," Na replied with a smile, taking his arm. They had a quiet, intimate dinner at a cozy restaurant filled with books. They talked for hours about their childhoods, hobbies, and favorite stories. By the end of the night, Raphael was completely enchanted by Na, and she finally believed that Raphael had nothing to do with what happened to her home. The two started seeing each other regularly and soon realized they couldn't live without one another. Raphael proposed, and they were married a few months later. For their honeymoon, they traveled to various places where famous writers had lived, bonding over their shared love for books. Their honeymoon brought them even closer, and when they returned, Na moved into Raphael's apartment. Every evening, they would sit together on the couch, reading quietly, content, in love, and happier than ever. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this story, please support the video by liking it and leaving a comment. Thank you so much.